Resource nationalism, like many policies in mineral oil and gas industries, tend to be controversial, to say the least. But first, what is resource nationalism? It's defined as two things. One, the tendency by host governments to exercise more control than can be reasonably justified in an open economy society. Secondly, the propensity by the same governments to want to benefit more from the resources than the investors. As a result, it's a major source of tension between host governments and investors. It manifests itself in different ways. For one, the proliferation of local content policies, state equity carried or not, multi-use and multi-purpose infrastructure requirements, employment quotas, and production sharing. All of these are seen by investors as typical of governments that lean towards resource nationalism. For their part, the governments feel that for the longest time, multinationals doing business in emerging markets have had more than their fair share of benefits of natural resources, and that these policies merely want to right the wrong of the past. Investors and financiers feel that they tend to erode the economics of deposits, that they reduce rates of returns, but more importantly, that they increase sovereign risk by lacking regulatory certainty, because with every change, these policies destabilize the business environment. In this particular incident, emerging markets governments tend to sing from the same page with their citizens, who feel that by right they ought to get a bigger share of the benefits from the exploitation of natural resources. What we know is this, that as a result of this perception of resource nationalism, countries that lean towards such policies tend to be less competitive in attracting investment. Here is an example. About 10 years ago, about 21% of the entire exploration budget in minerals was spent in South Africa. 2 years ago, that figure had dropped from 21 to merely 2%. The result is perception of sovereign risk, lack of policy stability, and resource nationalism. Therefore, if countries wish to be competitive, they can ill afford to pay attention to the sentiments of investors and financiers. By the same token, if investors want to have their license to operate, they too cannot afford to ignore the sentiments of host countries and their citizens.